Hello there, welcome to Alchemize Yourself Tarot. Right now I'm going to be exploring how you can recover from past mistakes in your relationships. What can you do when you face, an unexpected ending or betrayal? How do you work with this energy? How do we work with mistakes? That way we can create new beginnings. So what opportunities can you create from something not working out, right? Because not every connection is meant to stay in your life, right? We make mistakes. We choose wrong. We may do the wrong thing. We may sabotage a connection, or, maybe even choose the wrong person. But this is all about learning from those mistakes, and it's more about revealing something about who you are becoming, who you really want to become. I feel like that's more of a useful tool than repeating repetitive cycles, not doing the inner work or projecting it outward or trying to blame the other person. This is about some radical accountability, but also about self-discovery as the Hermit. The Hermit is all about inner wisdom, inner guidance, self-awareness, being able to see through illusions. So first of all, how do you recover from a mistake? You have to get grounded back into yourself. Grounded back into your own reality. And sometimes these difficult, painful connections are our biggest lessons. It's like a blessing in disguise, right? It shows you areas that you need to work on, shadow work. I like to see difficult relationships as a way to uncover unconscious patterns. That way it's not necessarily really about the other person so much as it is about yourself, right? Because, relationships can be very painful and hurtful, and people can betray us. We're not guaranteed anything from other people, even when there's high levels of commitment. So this is about really being in tune with who you are. And what these relationships are actually mirroring back to you. The stronger and more self-aware you are, and the more you trust in the universe and yourself, right? The Hermit with the Fool. The more you realize there's going to be new opportunities, right? You're closing out old cycles of defeat and creating new patterns, new ways of existing, new ways of seeing yourself and how you show up in the world. And you're going to be able to reinvent yourself from a more conscious place, right? When you've done that inner work and that self-reflection. And it's not about scapegoating or, saying this or that about the other person. This is a chance for you to really focus on yourself and operate from a more conscious place in your relationship. So many of you are going to be given a second chance. There's either at a relationship, existing relationship, or, many of you are getting into new relationships and you don't want to repeat past patterns, right? You want to be really strong within yourself. Many of you have done that inner work already. So, yeah, let's go a little bit deeper. What is the lesson behind this bond that you're dealing with? What is the lesson here? Definitely a chance to do some soul work, soul searching, inner work. And I like that. It's quiet. It's not always exciting like on a surface level, but there's so much deep wealth of wisdom you can get from that experience. Let's go a little deeper. Yeah, you want stability. The surface story of this connection is you want groundedness, stability, security, protection. The King of Pentacles is about manifesting abundance into your reality. What does an abundant life look like? What does protection look like? What does security look like? Or being provided for, or being able to provide? What can this person provide you that you cannot provide yourself too? That's, something that you need to be consciously aware of. But the King of Pentacles is about materializing something in the physical world, right? On the surface, something may seem really grounded and stable. The emotional trigger is that you're becoming the Empress. You're wanting to create life and abundance. You're very fertile. So there's definitely something that you want to nurture and give birth to. So even if something didn't work out in the past, you're creating a new, more abundant, fertile life for yourself. You're wanting to go deeper. You're wanting to elevate. And this is strong divine masculine and divine feminine energy. This is a very strong, stable place that you're entering into. And it's awakening, this past disappointment, things that didn't work, right? Sometimes our disappointments and what didn't work are there to teach us how to elevate into something better for ourselves. Mourning losses, mourning things that didn't work out, maybe things that we built up in our head that we got too emotionally connected to. That's where that illusion can play in. Sometimes we're really disappointed when things don't work out, and it's really hard to recognize how to take all of this and rebuild something with it. Some of you are getting into that energy. You're ready to rebuild. You're ready to recreate your life. So, and sometimes this takes withdrawing and mourning and grieving and crying and, working through those unprocessed emotions. Sometimes you have to feel it in order to heal it. As cheesy as that sounds, it's okay to be disappointed and cry and sit with the murkiness of your mistakes and your confusion with the Five of Cups. But there's water here that can nurture new growth. So it's an awakening, a realization within yourself about why something didn't work. Sometimes with the Five of Cups, we build our connections up only to go through that roller coaster of them crashing down, everything crumbling. And the illusion is King of Wands too. Like, I have a lot of masculine energy, so there's illusions around leadership, putting someone on a pedestal. I mean, this is the sun god Ra, right? This is making somebody the center of your universe, your reality, putting somebody on a pedestal, and then them not being able to live up to that. So, also this is about understanding that you have a lot more power over a situation than you give yourself credit for. The King of Wands is somebody, they have a desire, they have a passion, they follow through with things. Very energized. And I love Wands and Pentacles energy because this is about taking an idea, planting that seed, and actually watching it grow. So you've got attached to an illusion about leadership, masculinity, maybe even putting somebody on a pedestal, making them the center of your reality, and how that doesn't always get you the results that you want or need even. Sometimes we think we need something, and really it's within ourselves as the hermit. We project it outward. We put things on pedestals. And yeah, it's an opportunity to put more work into something. Manifestation is part of, you know, your mind creating your reality, but it's also about putting in the work, taking action towards something. King of Wands with the Eight of Pentacles, this is about putting in that time and effort, paying attention to the details. There's an opportunity to go deeper with something. There's also something here that you really want to create, and you're needing to tap. You don't need to put the other person in the position of whether or not you manifest something. That's going to lead to disappointment. This is about you taking the time and effort to put that into your own creations. You know, relationships are meant to activate us and encourage us in going deeper, you know, it's a chat, you know, some of you are being challenged. And yeah, your biggest lesson is Nine of Swords, where you get anxious, where you self-sabotage. There's a lot of hidden fear and anxiety. Some of you, you know, have maybe an unconscious fear of success, or fear of your value, your worth, whatever you're creating. You're putting way too much weight on what other people think, and it sabotages you, right? It creates fear. You're too guided by other people's opinion, and you're integrating the lessons of your intuition, trusting in yourself, trusting in higher guidance, higher wisdom, self-knowledge and awareness and groundedness, trusting in yourself. A lot of times relationships have that ability to destabilize. And many of you are going to get this new opportunity, this new chance to rework the energy. Because, yeah, when Extra Life came out, this is like not, you know, making a mistake, but using it as fuel for something else that you're actually wanting to create. Whether it be in your relationships or in your life. Some of you, a relationship not working is actually fuel for your life purpose. And a lot of times we don't see that until later or after deep reflection. It's a new opportunity. There's always new opportunities being presented, but many times with Five of Cups and Nine of Swords, we don't see those opportunities, or we sabotage, or we close ourselves off to the opportunity. And yeah, the Sun, happiness, clarity after maybe a period of time where things didn't work out. Some of you are going to have multiple options. You're going to have multiple, you know, people that want to build with you and create with you. So getting clarity and happiness. And I will say this, you can't yes, you can be happy within a connection, but sometimes, you know, what you come to find out with wisdom and experience is that you can't, you know, have that person be the center of all your joy and happiness. You have to be able to create that for yourself. And I speak from experience. I know it's a painful lesson when you see yourself truly, but there's also a lot of beautiful things to create from this, because you're creating and getting into relationships from a more conscious place, not just from a wounded place. And some of you will have an opportunity to fix a connection or actually move in a completely new direction. Some of you are being completely redirected from a particular relationship. On the surface, it looks good, but you're meant for something else. And sometimes that can be a struggle to deal with, you know, especially if you put someone on a pedestal or you expected something to work out long term with that King of Pentacles. Because on the surface, keep pushing through with this connection. Some of you will choose to keep pushing through with something. You're on the right path. You're on to something. So maybe you're not meant to just give up on every connection too. But I'm also getting something about being on the right path. You're meant to keep pushing through the obstacles and the mistakes. Those are the long-term relationships, right? Those are the ones that stand the test of time, because things can fall apart and happen, and there can be disappointments, but you're working through them. And definitely with the emotional trigger being the Empress, this is issues about your own worth and value, your own creativity. And maybe there's definitely some toxicity there that you had to work through, a toxic pattern. Some of you had a fallout or an argument or some sort of drama came out, but it's like fuel for, I'm getting self-recreation. It's like that trauma, that trigger, that toxicity actually triggered you to elevate. You can either choose to kind of repeat a pattern, or you can elevate from it. That's when you're on the right path. And it may be that toxicity or that fallout maybe triggered some unhealed wounds with the Five of Cups, things that were suppressed or hidden. You know, sometimes when we have a fallout, breakup, or fight with somebody, you know, it triggers up a lot of wounds and failures. And we don't want to repeat backwards. We're needing to redirect that energy into the life and person that we're really meant to be with. Yeah, written in the stars, unexplainable connection, fate, and destiny. So the part of you that it could have awakened you to your destiny, your life purpose. That painful, toxic relationship or situation actually could be redirecting you to your fated path, your fated partner. And if this is a current partner, there could be something really deep here coming out of this disappointment. You know, sometimes when we pull people off the pedestal a little bit and do inner work and self-reflection and come into our inner truth, it deepens a connection with somebody as well. Can this connection, you know, stand the test of time? You're getting all of this information. Use it as information. The deeper wound, forbidden taboo affair, discourage, oppose. Some of you were dealing with forbidden love, toxic love, people that are unavailable. And you get attached to that. This is like devil energy. You get attached to people that just aren't really good for you. There's something the forbidden fruit, right? There's something very delicious about partaking in something that isn't always good for you. And it's exotic and it's fun in the moment, but then it has long-term effects. It keeps you in patterns of anxiety and disappointment, and you're needing to be really honest with yourself about that. The deeper wound is worth and value in your work. Some of you, you're realizing that some connections can be too good to be true. If it's too good to be true, there's usually a catch, right? Indecisive, multiple option. That maybe you are just an option, or a person is an option, that there's this illusion of the abundance of choices, right? I think sometimes we fall under the illusion that we're always going to have these endless amounts of people at our disposal. But there's that wound of not being chosen too. We get a hit off of the fantasy of being chosen when really there's not that much certainty. Or we're not always guaranteed to be chosen. That can be like a big wake-up call too. Like, the actual lesson is that 9 of Swords, giving up ego, unconditional love. You know, true love, unconditional love does take sacrifices. A lot of people aren't willing to make those sacrifices. They're not willing to be selfless. Some of you feel like you're always having to sacrifice your own path, your dignity, your ego, you know, all of these things in order to be in a connection. And also there's this anxiety because you're going to have to make a decision. Who are you really willing to sacrifice things for? Or what are you willing to sacrifice to be in a connection? Yes, it might be very sensual and very alluring on the surface, but is it really going to be part of your path? That's the ultimate question. And when you're integrating someone could be, I mean, this is very specific, but some of you are dealing with somebody or are somebody that's really heavily attached to children, right? Children are a big aspect, new beginnings. Don't be tempted to trap anyone based on the needs of children. I know that's specific. But staying around for the kids, some of you have done that. You've stayed with somebody because you have children, or you want to have children. It could even be unborn children, that desire for creation, right? The Empress is pregnant, she's fertile. And some of you, that's a literal truth that you're having to confront. Do you and your partner share values around children, future children, existing children? I mean, nothing will give you a reality check like children, right? I mean, because there's such a big responsibility there. And sacrifices. You know, it's not always about our fantasies anymore. It's about literal sacrifices, real world things. So we're kind of dissolving that illusion For some of you, you're dealing with somebody with children, and it's like, at the end of the day, yes, you can live out this fantasy, but you know, there's reality, there's responsibilities. And for those of you where that's not specific, I do think you or a person, there were disagreements about having children, wanting children, what kind of commitment and providing is involved with being a parent. Also, you should ask yourself, is this somebody that you could have children with? Like, could you raise children? Could you be in a partnership? You know, children require two people, you know, working together. I mean, even the best of relationships can suffer when it comes to parenting. So that's like a big reality hit. But some of you are going to be dating, or you're needing to get to know people. You know, sometimes you're dating people that have children. But what I'm seeing here is this connection is definitely teaching you guys to evaluate your values, what you truly want out of life. Fantasy and forbidden love and drama, those are all fleeting things. And they're fantasies, they're illusions. And what this connection is teaching you guys is that you need to go deeper about what you want your overall life to look like. What is your actual vision? And many of you will have to do this on your own. You're not going to be able to get answers from this person or situation. And some of you will move in a new direction. And others of you, you're going to have to eventually break it down to, what are you willing to sacrifice for a particular person? That's tough. You know, most people have their own life and their own agenda, and they're not going to be flexible. And that is what it is. And you have to work with that. But when you're true to yourself, you always are going to be open to the flow state of the universe. You can trust in the universe. The Fool card here is coming off as you trusting that if this doesn't work out, something better will. That maybe it's not meant to work out, and that's okay. So let's get a little, I'm going to pull a compassion message, if I can find my compassion cards. And so how do you have compassion for yourself when connections don't align or don't work out? When you can still get the message, you can still get the nugget of wisdom out of this. Many of you are leaving behind karmic. You've been tested karmically with connections. You've recognized what's not working. And there's this crossroads. It's like, do you elevate or go back into that pattern? Oh. Embrace the new. Yeah. Try a new approach. Find a change of scenery. So some of you need to find a new approach. Do something differently. Don't repeat a pattern. Try a new approach. Maybe this old approach just didn't really work, and you're aware enough to realize that. And also mediation. It may be time to seek an intermediary to achieve mutual agreeable solution. Some of you are going to try a new approach with a person. You may try to get counseling or utilize expert advice to get better results out of your relationship. So there's definitely compromise, right? Unconditional love is about being willing to compromise and work through your problems, trying new things. And also assumptions. Yeah, this is a difficult one. Seek answers directly to gain a better understanding. Never assume. And that's something I've had to really work on. That's the 9 of Swords, the self-sabotage. When you start making assumptions, you fear the worst, you vilify somebody, you jump to a conclusion that's not really there. That's one of the 4 agreements, and that's something I've had to work through my entire life, is don't make assumptions. Be direct. Ask questions. Get to know somebody. Don't just, make assumptions and live in a fantasy, because this fantasy can be a daydream or a nightmare, especially if you're making assumptions. And I'm going to close it out there. I do think we're moving from obsessive, toxic relationships or fantasy-based relationships into more clarity and groundedness. So thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And I wish the best of luck to you. Bye.